Welcome to Watch Diary. My name is Ryan Snelling, and as always, I'm excited to be here with you today. Of course, it is Sunday, April 2nd. I hope you had a good April Fool's Day, and by good, I mean a non-existent April Fool's Day, because guys, we're old enough to not have to celebrate April Fool's Day anymore. Did you fall for any April Fools? I sure did. It wasn't that big of a deal, though. I'm not going to lie. The only thing I fell for, it was on Twitter. Some Blu-ray update website posted that they had just announced 4K steelbooks for 7. David Fincher's 7. And they posted like 4 different types of artwork, and they were all sick looking. Like, they looked awesome. There was no link posted with it. It was just a graphic. Went, down the rabbit hole and found out that it was a joke and I had been played. But that was pretty much it. Nobody else I was around my family and some family friends, and nobody really got me. So it ended up being okay. I mostly stayed to myself yesterday playing Red Dead Redemption and just cut off from the world because that's what I do on the weekends. Anyway, so I'm glad to be here with you. It is 11:30. Now, this is earlier than I'm used to recording, at least in this Kentucky setup. I would record in the mornings like in Arizona and stuff, but not so much lately. I usually do like mid-afternoon, but I was sitting here doing some design work, and I had a stream going on in the background, and I was getting tired. Now, do I have my trusty Trenta cold brew? I do. Do I have my trusty Trenta water? I do. But I was getting tired, and I figured that now was the best time to record this podcast, because I thought, well, I'm only going to get more tired, and I'm probably going to nap, and I don't want to record the podcast on the other side of the nap. I need to go to the gym later, because I didn't go to the gym yesterday, and it was a terrible mistake. Terrible mistake. So I figured right now, so I'm just going to give you a warning. Am I a little bit of ashamed of myself? Yes. Because I don't know if I'm giving you my best. I'm going to try. I don't know if I feel like my best, but I think now is better than later. So we're going to do this and record this. So obviously we're here to review Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. We also have a quarterly report to do. And I don't know that I officially did a quarterly report. I kind of don't remember earlier in the year or the end of year. I mean, I know I did the end of year stuff, but I can't recall if I did. What am I looking at? I can't recall if I did one or not for, what would it be? October through December. Surely to God I did, right? I'm going to look on my Letterboxd list real quick. Letterboxd.com/rewatchryan. I didn't do it. At least according to my Letterboxd list. I did my quarterly report for July through September. Oh, no. I feel terrible. What was I doing? What was I fucking around? Oh, I know why. It's because I had just moved back, and I didn't really have my setup. I wouldn't have even had this apartment, I don't think, at that point. So that's why. Damn. I missed a quarterly report. That kind of makes me sad, because that was like a thing I came up with, And, I'll be honest, I'm going to have to pause this and get this all arranged because I didn't even prep for it. Man, you're getting my best today. One thing I wanted to be conscious of, the next podcast I recorded, I knew I wanted to try not to stutter over my words so much. Now, I like podcasting in the sense that I want it to be natural. I like a natural sounding podcast. When I listen back to our latest episode of Hot Takes and Sausage, which is up right now, and it's great, I listen back to it and I still hear how noisy it is, and it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. So I think I need to tone it down a little bit and slow down. That way I'm not stuttering so much. There's too many ums, too many uhs. I need to relax, right? Let's relax and then get more hyped up on caffeine. The Hot Takes and Sausage podcasts are a lot of fun to do. And I have no clue what the audience is for that. It's almost like I'm recording a podcast for my friends group to listen to. So I don't know if people are enjoying it. I hope they are. I mean, we get a lot of good comments and stuff. I also want to thank everybody on YouTube that was listening to last week's episode of Watch Diary. A ton of people dropped off within the first 30 minutes, but it's been a while. It doesn't typically happen that I get a podcast that goes over 100 views on YouTube. So most of those people didn't watch, but it was still cool to see that. So thank you so much. Especially right now, because I'm just kind of doing the 2 podcasts. I'm not really looking to do specific videos right now. I've got some other stuff going on personally that's really exciting, and it'll definitely benefit everything that I'm doing here in the next few months. It's another, I don't want to speak too much about it, but it's a new job opportunity, and I will be able to fund everything that I want to do with the podcast a lot easier and a lot quicker. So maybe the podcast studio will be coming up here in the next few months. It'll be definitely a less noisy room, and it'll be good. So anyway, I've had a nice week, productive week. Saw a movie in theaters, watched a couple of brand new movies that I'll talk about in my quarterly report, and we will get this thing going. In fact, should I just go on and stop and pause now? Well, let's do the Dungeons and Dragons review, because technically that counts in the quarterly report. So let's review Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves right now, and then we'll break and then do the quarterly report, and then I will get out of here and go play Red Dead and then probably take a nap, because I don't know what's going on. Oh, I do know what's going on. So last night, yesterday, Saturday, I love working out on the weekends. So the past couple of weeks, my off days have been in the middle of the week. That way I can hit Friday, Saturday, Sunday hard. Get a leg day in, get chest and tris in, and then get boulder day, which is buys back, shoulders. And yesterday, my stepdad asked me to come down and hang out, talk business, go eat with my mom. And I did that, and it was great. And I broke my diet eating chips and salsa. And I don't want to say, eating chips and salsa wasn't necessarily what broke it, because I did have like pork nachos earlier in the week, but it was the amount that I was eating where I was like, well, I'm truly screwed today. Totally went off track. And then my stepdad just convinced me to get a beer with him. So I had a big Dos Equis, and I haven't had beer in a couple months. So I was feeling a little groggy and lethargic, and I think that's part of why I woke up in the mood that I was in, just not feeling my greatest. I mean, I don't feel bad. I just feel tired and down. Also, the weather kind of sucks. It's been like turning into spring slowly but surely, but it is so windy here in Kentucky. Like, we cannot have a single day without crazy ass wind. I don't know if other people around the United States are experiencing this, especially around the region I'm in Kentucky, but it's just windy all the time, like hard to drive windy. And anyway, so maybe my mood's just been thrown off. Maybe I need to take my B complex. That's probably what I'll do here. I need to take my B complex and my magnesium, because Brando loves when I talk about supplements and health and vitamins. Here, we'll do it right now. So anyway, I had beer last night, didn't go to the gym, so that's why it's especially important that I go today. What the hell just happened here? Honor Among Thieves, Dungeons and Dragons. I liked the spirit of the trailer when I first saw it, and obviously I'm interested in anything Chris Pine does. Now, for those of you who don't know, Chris Pine, in my opinion, is the superior Hollywood Chris if the criteria is acting. I also think he's the most interesting because he's the most low profile of all the Chris's. But I think Chris Pine has proven, even though his work isn't as high profile, I think Chris Pine is actually the most diverse and the best actor. because I think Hemsworth could have done Honor Among Thieves, but Chris Pine could have pretty much done any role that the other Chris's have played. But I don't think like Evans could have pulled off Honor Among Thieves. Maybe he could have. I just don't imagine him in that, and it would have taken me out of it more, I think. So that's interesting. Earlier on Sight and Sound Movies, that was a different podcast feed. Sorry, I get my podcast mixed up. When we were doing Sight and Sound, I did Sight and Sound Movies. I did an analytical breakdown of the Hollywood Chris's, and I think it'd be really fascinating to do it again, especially because the Chris's are going head-to-head this coming week. Well, I guess it's head-to-head, not really. Chris Pine having been in Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and Chris Pratt is going to be in Super Mario Brothers, but also Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, of course. I would love to do another side-by-side of that, so maybe I will soon. Chris Pine's definitely the lowest profile, though, but my favorite. So, unfortunately, my favorite I don't get to see as much. But him being in this movie was... If it was anybody else, like if... what's his name? Reg John Page, the guy from Bridgerton, who's a side character. Like, if he was the lead character in this movie, I wouldn't have seen it. I just simply wouldn't have. So, he interested me and got me into it, and I like the spirit of, let's, again, try... I'm going to root for these game movies. I really am. Now, do they mostly let people down? Yes, 100%. But if Dungeons & Dragons, a movie comes out, and I have never played the game before, I know almost nothing about it, if this movie was going to come out, now was the time to strike. Because it's the Stranger Things wave. Stranger Things brought Dungeons & Dragons to the forefront to this generation in a way that, you know, just, it wasn't being talked about. It wasn't being discussed. But Stranger Things sort of brought it back into the forefront of pop culture. So now was the time to strike. So it's kind of interesting that they did that and had the foresight to do that. And I think it's going to pay off because based on opening weekend projections, if I remember correctly, I don't know if the numbers are out yet because I'm doing this early, but based on the projections, its opening weekend is stronger than Shazam 2's. Now, going back to the Shazam conversation, I have no idea what to make of that. So, Dungeons & Dragons on Friday. Why are only the Friday numbers out? It's almost noon. Dungeons & Dragons on Friday, its first Friday, made about 15 million or so. So I think it's probably going to end the weekend at 40, I think is the projection. So let's see what Shazam! Fury of the Gods did in its very first Friday, if we can find it. 11 million. I am stunned. I'm stunned. So far, Shazam! Fury of the Gods domestically has made 50 million. Holy shit. That's crazy. And it came out 2 weeks ago. Oh my God, that is blowing my mind. Wow. I'm literally stunned. Sorry, I had to take a second from the podcast. Literally stunned at that statistic. Anyway, I don't know what to make of that. But kudos to Dungeons & Dragons for doing that. I just can't believe that. So anyway, now is the time to strike. It's apparently working so far. We got another good, exciting March release. March has been good. It's been not like the movies are fire, but it's been an exciting time to go to the theaters. And I think we're going to keep seeing this run a little bit with Mario, of course, is going to be huge. And then Air, I'm excited about. I hope Air does good business. I hope it has a Dungeons & Dragons weekend. Surely to God it will. But Air will definitely be in the cultural zeitgeist longer than Dungeons will, just because of Ben and Matt, and it'll get brought back around for award season in a way that Dungeons & Dragons won't. And then it'll have a legacy similar to Moneyball. I mean, sports movies just kind of carry themselves in a different way with that. So Anyway, so right now the health of the theater I think is so far so good, with the exception of superhero films. So this movie is working, simply put, and I am in the camp of this movie worked. The biggest gripe I have is that some of the CGI is just not great. I can look over that if I'm excited by the story. The only other gripe I have is that I was just kind of losing interest through some of the plotting, and ultimately I didn't care very much as a character. But I think it's just my taste, honestly, because I was really into the first act, and I don't know if it got worse necessarily. I just think I cared less. So everybody's mileage is going to vary, of course, and I know that's a super obvious thing to say, but I think for the most part, I understand people having a good time with this movie. I really do. It was laugh out loud funny in parts. There is a joke at the beginning in the first act, and they also call back to it at the very end of the movie, but there is a joke in the first act where I was just hysterically laughing. I think I was the only person in the theater. Like, people laughed, but the way that I was laughing, I was the only one, and it was an incredible joke. It took a while to set up. I was like, where are they going with this? And then when it hits, it hit hard, and I just lost my mind. It takes place, for those of you who have seen the movie, it's what Chris Pine is sort of like building to when he has his criminal hearing at the beginning of the film. So he's kind of taking us through why he should be released from this prison sentence, which is also an exposition dump or whatever. And they keep cutting away to this little joke. And then finally when the joke hits, oh my God, I was dying laughing. And it might have just been so my humor, and I thought about how funny my friends will find that. I have a lot of friends that have similar tastes in movies and also play D&D, so I assume that they're going to go see the movie. But this joke was just beautiful. And then they call back to it at the end of the movie, and I just thought it was hilarious. I don't know that it ever got funnier than that, but it was funny. Most of the humor, though, was Marvel-esque. So it was like cute and like common denominator funny and entertaining, but at the same time, it kind of made me roll my eyes. You know, there was a whole... I don't know if Guardians of the Galaxy was the first movie that ever did this, because it's kind of like an easy thing that could be written a million times over, but there's a conversation, and you see it in the trailer, there's a conversation where there's banter around Chris Pine's inability to make a plan. And they're all around a table. And this movie is about like found family and stuff, of course. So there's a lot of parallels to Guardians of the Galaxy. So when I see things like that, it just kind of makes me roll my eyes. And then I get I'm just kind of over it in those moments. And I don't really find that entertaining. And I think that's just the curmudgeon in me that... it's just looking for more, and looking for more identity in the movies that I watch, because it just seems like all movies that are crowd pleasing are all the same, and I know that that's part of the point, but I wish it was a different voice, if that makes sense. And it just kind of, it's like it's all the same, and I don't think crowd-pleasing movies need to be the same. I mean, what's the most successful movie at the box office this year? John Wick 4? I mean, that's crowd-pleasing because of the hard-hitting action and the stunt work, and so there's different ways to be crowd-pleasing, but so there are those moments, but at the end of the day, there were aspects to it. I wasn't crazy about the villain, and I think it's nitpicking though at the same time, because I don't know that I have to think too hard about those kinds of things. So at the end of the day, simply put, and not to tread the same ground over and over again, it's going to be fun. It's better than it has any business being. It really is. Like, I'm surprised at how good it was, and happy for it. Overall, just lost interest. I don't know that I would ever watch this movie again, honestly, but it was a good time, and it's worthy of the attention that it's getting, and I support and I get behind its success at the box office, and I would urge anybody who's like on the verge of deciding whether they should go see it or not, I think you should go see it. I really do. I wouldn't talk anybody out of it unless they just know instantly that they already aren't that into it. But if you watch the trailer and you didn't think it was that funny, I think there are times where you'd be surprised. But if you know no matter what, you're just not going to be into it, then I probably couldn't sell you on it. But it was better than it had any business being. It really was. And I would watch a sequel. I would look forward to a sequel, and I hope that it warrants one, because I think it does deserve it in a way that Shazam doesn't. It kind of blows my mind how that ended up. So anyway, if you are listening to this, I'm posting, man, my lips are chapped. If you're listening to this on April 3rd, happy birthday, Cody Hecker, my good buddy. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 tickets are on sale right now, I think, or today. So if you're listening to this at like 4 a.m., there might not be, but if you're listening to this on Monday the 3rd, I think Guardians tickets are on sale, so go get that. So I am going to take a break and then get my Letterboxd together, and we'll do quarterly report. I'll be right back. We're back. I just saw on Twitter, Dungeons & Dragons made $38.5 million. So it's only, 11 shy of matching what Shazam 2 has done. I'm not even like trying to be that hard on Shazam. It just goes back to what I was saying on that podcast, that I literally just like don't even know why it's not making money. I don't get it. Because Shazam is a good movie. The first one. At least, it should do at least the same business, right? I don't know. I'm still under the belief that general audiences don't know about the DC drama. They don't. Even now that TikTok exists and things like that, I don't think general moviegoers care about that stuff. They don't. In the way that in my personal life, when I'm around somebody who doesn't care about movies and things the way that I do, when I talk to them about this stuff, they shut down. Now, TikTok's a little bit different because now my sister will listen to a TikTok that she scrolls through. She doesn't go looking for it. But if she sees a TikTok where people are theorizing about Marvel and she sends it to me thinking I'm going to be interested in it, and I literally can poke holes in all their theories because I'm just listening to a TikTok of people who don't know anything. If people are doing that all the time, but I don't think that affects the movie that much. I think general moviegoers look at Rotten Tomatoes and then they just look at the trailer. So if you're on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and Shazam, Fury of the Gods. If you look at Rotten Tomatoes right now, and you're wanting to decide, hey, should I go? Oh, that's a 51%. But even so, but still, it's so low, the box office. It is so low. Anyway, I think it'd be crazy. It'd be crazy if... Oh, the first trailer for Secret Invasion comes out tonight. It's got a sick poster, too. It'd be crazy if Air comes out and does better than Shazam 2. I mean, what a win. What a win for cinema. What am I doing? Oh, I don't know, but if you are into Better Call Saul, I just found out, so I did not see the Better Call Saul final season. I've seen everything up until the final season, didn't watch it live. I have been waiting for the Blu-ray release, and I was going to buy all of Breaking Bad, because hopefully they do it. All of Breaking Bad, all of Better Call Saul, and El Camino. I want it on 4K. All of it. I would love it. Been looking out to see when they're going to put out Better Call Saul Season 6 on Netflix, and we just got the date. Is it April 18th? It's like in the next 2 or 3 weeks or something. So it's happening very soon. So I'm thinking about doing a rewatch of Better Call Saul. Maybe that's what I do with my lazy day today. But I'm excited nonetheless to watch the final season. Maybe I'll just rewatch the most recent 2 seasons or something, because I've seen the first couple seasons a couple times. So anyway, all right, let's do the quarterly report. If you don't know what it is, all I'm doing now that we've gone one entire quarter into the year of 2023 is I am ranking all the movies that I've watched so far this year. That's what the quarterly report is. Just to give you a breakdown of everything I've watched. So let's go on to my Letterboxd here. Whoops, that's my Twitter. Here we go. So obviously if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my Letterboxd right here, but I try to be as descriptive as possible. So I have 15 movies here, and these are the only movies that I've watched in the year 2023, and it's pathetic. I get it. If you're looking right now at my diary, you can see that one movie I watched in January, one. In February, I watched 3, and then the other 11 were in the month of March. So March was a decent month for me. There were some months in 2022 where I like watched a movie a day. Sometimes there were days that I watched like 4 movies in a day. That happened when I put out my Nicolas Cage content. I did like a Nicolas Cage ranked, and it was leading up to Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I watched 4 Nicolas Cage movies in a day that I had never seen before. Pretty crazy. So anyway, let's rank everything that I'm going here. I'll just go through everything that I've watched. So you'll see a little bit of a thing where I go revisit some Matt Damon and Ben Affleck stuff, things that I've never seen before, things that I have seen before, of course. But the very first movie that I watched in the month of January was Ford v Ferrari. Now, Ford v Ferrari rips. So it's going to stay up there. Actually, another thing that I need to do is pull up my ranking for the year so far. Okay. Just to make sure that I don't do something that contradicts what I already have before. So Ford v Ferrari is incredible. I want the 4K Steelbook. Don't have it. Too expensive. Knock at the Cabin was the first 2023 release that I've watched. And I'll tell you what, kind of forgotten about it already. It was so straightforward. Is it solid? Yeah, it's a solid thriller. But it was so straightforward and didn't play to a different tune like than I expected. I expected more of an identity, I guess, because it was almost just like Shyamalan directed a movie that literally anybody could have directed. So there were parts of it that I liked, for sure. I'm also wildly underwhelmed by it. And it was just really a straightforward thriller, but at the end of the day, those are the ones I forget about. Like, this could have been a Netflix movie that I just forget about. So I'm not hating on it. It's just going to be forgotten. I'm going to forget that I watched it. Come August, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. The worst Marvel movie ever, in my opinion. And I just don't get how it has a fandom behind it. I really don't. This movie also highlights, again, I said that it doesn't heal from Phase 4, and it makes me even more afraid for Phase 5. But there's even just, it's filmmaking that's bad in this movie. The filmmaking is terrible in this movie. And I don't know that I'll ever watch this movie again. I really don't have any interest in it, even for Jonathan Majors. And that's not even a commentary on what he's dealing with right now. I just don't think it's strong enough in any aspect for me to care. The filmmaking is terrible. And the things that anybody can criticize Marvel for being, like up until this point, the things that I relax about and the things that I don't get caught up with, is that most of the movies just don't look good. Before we even get to CGI, they just don't look good. The CGI didn't look good. The problem with filmmaking where your actors aren't even interacting with anything. I mean, remember the scene in Endgame when Black Widow and Steve Rogers are sitting in the compound and they have that discussion about the whales and moving on, and there's a little thing with a peanut butter sandwich? They interact with a real thing, a peanut butter sandwich. How many scenes are like that in the MCU? So few. Because otherwise it's just actors standing with other actors in front of green screen and just bantering. And so Quantumania highlighted that and every other Marvel weakness to the extreme, to the point where I can't even ignore it anymore. It's just, oh my God. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This movie, I still champion this movie. Are there flaws? Yes. There's flaws. But I respect the shit out of the final product. I really do. Just based on everything that they were going for. I like that it's moodier. I like that the tone is a little bit more serious. And there's a lot of good things that they're dealing with and working through that's really great. And then the Marvel stuff actually is what detracts from it. So the stuff with Everett Ross, and I think with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like, this is how disconnected I am from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can't even remember who Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays. Fontaine, Contessa, something. I can't even remember. That's how little I care about Marvel right now. So anyway, this is going to be where the first move is from this list. So Wakanda Forever, I'm going to put it above Knock at the Cabin. I really am. And Ford v Ferrari is still first. So right now, Ford v Ferrari, Wakanda Forever, Knock at the Cabin, Quantumania. Creed 3. I'm going to put Creed 3. It's better than Knock at the Cabin. I think on my list I have it as my second favorite movie of the year so far. Yes, so it's definitely above Knock at the Cabin and Quantumania. I think I'm going to put it below Wakanda Forever, just based on the rewatch value alone. I think Creed 3 has some melodrama that makes it a little bit more soapy, but it's wildly entertaining. But I'm going to put it behind Wakanda Forever just slightly, because Wakanda Forever has a lot of stuff that's going to keep me coming back to it. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. It's the second worst movie I've seen this year, so I'm going to just move it right above Quantumania and Knock at the Cabin. Troy. Let's talk about Troy. This is one of those movies that, like, I have such a long history with. It was one of my first DVDs. I saw this movie when I couldn't see R-rated movies, and I went and snuck and saw it with my friend, and I got grounded for it. I was obsessed with it. Brad Pitt as Achilles. Achilles was like one of my favorite fictional characters of all time when I saw this. I was thrilled about reading the Iliad in high school because of this movie. Troy is just a movie that I hold near and dear to my heart. And more than ever when I watch it, I realize, like, it's kind of a guilty pleasure because it's not perfect, but I do find it wildly entertaining. Even though Brad Pitt looks incredible and there's some stuff that he really sells, I don't think Brad Pitt sells it as a lead in this movie anymore. Not in the way that I thought he was super cool growing up. I don't think he has it in this movie, but I love Troy. I really do. It's a great story, and I think it's a pretty good adaptation, and there's a lot of fun stuff in it, even though some of it's I think it's really good. And I also miss practical filmmaking. Oh my God. I'm going to put Troy above Wakanda Forever and below Ford v Ferrari. It's just one of those movies that you just keep with you in your life. All right. Let me make sure that you can still see everything. All right, good. There Will Be Blood is one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, that might surprise people because I don't often talk about it, but it's a comfort movie that sometimes I get in a mood for it, the way that I get in the mood for, like, the Batman. There Will Be Blood is a mood, and I love, and the 2.5 hours just flies by, in my opinion. So in the last 2 years, I've probably rewatched it 4 times, and before that, I don't think I'd seen it since the year it came out. So it's just a movie that, as time goes on, I've gravitated more and more to. And Paul Thomas Anderson is a director that I'm not actually that familiar with. I think There Will Be Blood and Licorice Pizza, I can't remember if I've seen any other PTA movie off the top of my head. He's just one of those directors like a Wes Anderson. I've never seen a Wes Anderson film. Now, part of that is on purpose because I can tell he's not for me. But for some reason, Paul Thomas Anderson is a director that I don't have a huge relationship with. And it's kind of weird because I saw another one of his movies for the very first time. And it may or may not be an instant top, I don't know, instantly top 50 for me, easily. So There Will Be Blood. It's a movie that I don't talk about maybe ever on this podcast. So people are like, "What? Since when is There Will Be Blood?" It's incredible. And if you follow my Letterboxd, not that anybody should follow it to this extent, but you would have noticed that like I watched it like 4 times in the last year or two. The Batman is incredible, great, wonderful. I think I'm gonna put it behind Ford v Ferrari and above Troy, because I think if you had to, I don't know, it's got to be the Batman. Yeah, There Will Be Blood and the Batman, and then Ford v Ferrari is third. But all of those, I mean, they're so close together in terms of just things for me. John Wick Chapter 4 is awesome. I'm going to put it above Wakanda Forever. I'm going to put it above Troy. Well, no, I'm not going to put it above Troy. I'm going to put it below Troy, and that is just like to make sure that I don't get caught up in recency bias. Troy is a legacy film for me. So, is the action better in John Wick? 100%. 100%. But if you were to ask me right now, what would you rather watch? It'd probably be Troy, if I was just like sitting at home. But John Wick 4 is incredible, and the best movie of the year so far. Where am I at? School Ties. I watched School Ties for the very first time this past week in honor of Air coming out, because I kind of forget School Ties is the first movie that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were in together. You always think of it's Good Will Hunting, but it's School Ties. And I also forget all the time that they've been in other like Kevin Smith movies together. Up until this point, I just really think Good Will Hunting, The Last Duel, and the upcoming Air. But School Ties, when I was listening to Matt Damon and Ben Affleck on Bill Simmons, I didn't realize to what extent they were in it. Like, I didn't realize Matt Damon was the villain of the movie, and this was like one of his first roles ever. So I learned a lot about it. Also, Brendan Fraser, of course, I didn't realize that he was the lead until I looked it up. So the cast is fascinating. So Brendan Fraser going up against Matt Damon in a 90s movie, I was like, sold. How have I not seen this before? Ben Affleck has like 2 lines in it. He's kind of like in the background, but he's there. And he interacts with Matt Damon a little bit. But it was a fascinating movie. Is it good? Yeah. Is it great? No. I'm going to put School Ties above Knock at the Cabin. But below Creed 3. It's fine. It's not bad, but it's just hasn't aged that well. And the point of the story is commendable and everything. I just don't think it's that wonderful of a movie or anything. Good Will Hunting, though. Good Will Hunting, this was probably my favorite viewing of Good Will Hunting, and I don't know why. Because I don't necessarily identify with either character, but I loved it. And I think Good Will Hunting, I'm going to put it above Troy, but below Ford v Ferrari. I loved it. Anyway, so this was my favorite viewing of the movie, and I have no idea why. Changing Lanes. I haven't seen it before, so I watched it for the very first time. I was sitting down thinking about the first time I saw Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And I honestly think the first time I saw Ben Affleck was either the movie... No, I think I decided it was Pearl Harbor. Because I remember being in 8th grade, and a girl that I was into loved the movie Pearl Harbor. And I don't think I'd seen it. So I went to Blockbuster to watch it just for her. But I can't remember if I watched the movie Paycheck before or after that. So it would have been Pearl Harbor, Paycheck, or Daredevil. I can't remember which one came first, but I think it's Pearl Harbor or Paycheck. And then maybe Daredevil after. But anyway, Changing Lanes I had never seen before. And it's fine. It kind of reminded me of the movie, Crash. It's just like so heavy-handed with its messaging. But there was like a style to it that I appreciated. And it's the kind of movie that we don't see often anymore. So I appreciated it in all those respects. And I did find it kind of fascinating and entertaining. Is it dated? For sure. but it's also just kind of heavy-handed, so they ask the audience to kind of just go with you just because they want to prove this point so bad. And like, I get it, but it was all right. I'm gonna put it right above School Ties, but below Creed 3. Boogie Nights is the Paul Thomas Anderson film that I saw for the very first time. So it's cousins with Wolf of Wall Street and Goodfellas. I was fascinated by this movie to see the cast that it has, because I'd never seen it before, obviously. So I knew roughly what it was, but I didn't really know the type of movie it was. I didn't know that there was going to be a downward spiral and it was going to get really serious. And it's a fascinating movie. I still am processing how I feel about it, though. But I think it's incredible, obviously. So I'm going to put it right behind Good Will Hunting right now because I'm still processing. But I think I just saw like one of the greatest movies of my lifetime. But that's just where I'm comfortable putting it right now, is behind Good Will Hunting and right above Troy. It was fascinating to watch. It really was. So Dungeons & Dragons, I thought was... Yes, that's right. So I thought it was better than Knock at the Cabin, but worse than Creed 3. So I'm going to put Dungeons & Dragons right above... I'm going to put it right between Changing Lanes and School Ties. And that's where we'll have it. So, guys, I will rank the movies that I've watched this year so far, this quarter, from worst to best. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Knock at the Cabin, School Ties, Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Changing Lanes, Creed 3, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, John Wick Chapter 4, Troy, Boogie Nights, Good Will Hunting, Ford v Ferrari, The Batman, and There Will Be Blood. And that is my quarterly report. Saved, locked and loaded on my Letterboxd. Go to letterboxd.com/rewatchryan to see what I'm up to. I just posted a list and I pinned it to my profile. It's called Movies I Know for a Fact I Will Go My Entire Life Without Seeing. Now, I can't remember if I talked about this on the podcast or not. You can see it if you're on video. You can see. I'm gonna sneeze. Maybe not. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this list. So movies I know for a fact I will go my entire life without seeing. So every now and then I see a movie trailer, and I think to myself, it's not that I think to myself, I don't want to see that movie. Not interested, because that happens all the time. Or I want to see that movie, I never get around to it. There's a whole bunch of different reactions to a trailer. But every now and then I see a trailer, and my reaction is, I know for a fact that in my lifetime, that movie will never be viewed by these eyes. So it wasn't the first time I thought it before this list. The first time I reacted that way recently was Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Now, does everybody love Marcel the Shell with Shoes On? Yes. Wasn't it nominated for an Academy Award? I can't remember. It was nominated for things. Now, do I understand that? Now, can I even admit that it probably is a good movie? Yeah. But there's something about it that when I see the trailer, I think to myself, not that I think to myself, I know that movie will never be viewed by these eyes. And that's just how I feel about it. And the most recent addition to this list is Renfield, a movie that comes out later this week. I know for a fact I will literally never watch that movie. I just know. There will be no instance in my life where I will watch Renfield. And that's where we are. So I'm going to try to go back through a few years and see if I can make that a better list. Because I just think it'd be funny. But anyway, guys, that's it for Watch Diary this week. Thank you so much. I am buying my Guardians tickets tomorrow. I am seeing Air on Wednesday, and I'm seeing Super Mario Brothers on Thursday, I believe. So I'm going to talk about Air and Super Mario Brothers on the next episode of Watch Diary. and we'll have another Hot Takes and Sausage coming out as well. I think I'm going to make that a new feed soon, but I'm not taking it off the Watch Diary feed if the new feed is just not performing the way that the other episodes are. So I'm going to have both exist and maybe eventually transfer over, but anyway. Guys, thank you so much. My name is Ryan Stelling. You can find me on things at Rewatch Ryan. See you on the next one.